What evidence are you looking for in your life? When you are thinking about what fulfills you or what doesn't fulfill you, when you're thinking about your intentions, when you're thinking about setting new intentions, when you think about your own capabilities, where are you looking for evidence? Welcome back to the Priority Report. I'm your host, Scotti, and I am the owner and founder of Slow Living Solutions, where we work on the ways that you can find the most fulfillment in your life through your passion, power, and purpose by how it is that you prioritize your time. So today's podcast, episode 4, is all on intentionality. It's one of my favorite topics, and I feel like it bleeds into everything that I end up talking about with people. So I might run down like 18 rabbit holes. Just try and stay with me if you can. Always a challenge with me. I always have so many thoughts to share. I'm going to start off by just talking about, what I mean by intentionality. So let's just go ahead and give that a definition. When we are intentional about something, we are applying meaning and purpose behind why it is that we're doing it in the first place. And I thought, as I was reflecting for this episode and taking my notes, that I should really just start by reflecting on why I'm even creating this podcast. This is so cringy for me, like this entire experience. This is one of like the biggest exercises in self-development for me that I've had to do in quite some time. This was not part of my Grandmaster plan, and yet here I am making it happen. So I wanted to first think about the fact that I had started off thinking I was going to do a podcast because I was like, oh, you know what? I need this as an SEO play. I want another marketing tool. It works as a sales funnel, all of the logistical reasons that you would have a podcast for a business, more or less. But then I was listening to this clip by Mel Robbins, and she was talking to Oprah this past week in an interview, and they were talking about the fact that when Mel writes, it always feels deeply personal for her audience, that relatability is very strong. And Mel was saying how she always speaks either on her podcast or in her books to the person who needs to hear her words that day, who needs to hear what her message is for that day. And that really hit me because I was like, oh, crap. That's right. My words matter. Holy shit. My words matter. And that's not just true of me. That's true of you too. My words have impact. You wouldn't be sitting here listening to me if they didn't. And if you weren't interested in what it is that I have to say. So I need to not downplay the importance of that for myself as I'm creating these, that there is a level of significance to my ideas, and that my ideas have power to change the world. And I owe it to the people that my words resonate with to always be showing up for myself in the language that I use, and showing up for them in demonstrating how to do hard things and use language that demonstrates my belief in myself about the impact that I can have. So that's number one in intentionality. The second piece of that is also that you can't show up and think that your words matter without showing up authentically. And I was like, oh, that would be the other ingredient that I feel like was missing, perhaps, or maybe just not fully coming through in the first 3 episodes. The level of discomfort with being on camera and with recording my voice and with hoping and praying, or neither of those things, quite frankly, that what I have to say is going to land for somebody, was really undercutting my ability to show up fully and presently as myself. And so it felt very dry, and it didn't feel very personable. So I think that's all important to say, because I fundamentally believe, as a human being, as part of my constitution, that I cannot mentor you, I cannot coach you, I cannot lead you if I am not practicing what I preach. And so I want to use this podcast as an example of my own intentionality, that I need to lean in on my self-belief that what I'm here to do, what I'm here to say, matters to you, and I owe that to you as part of my radical responsibility, but also that showing up and being me, it matters to you and matters to me, and that when I think about applying intentionality to my podcasting, I'm thinking about that changes my reason for doing the thing, right? So instead of showing up being like, well, I need to have a podcast and talk about stuff because it's a great awareness sales funnel and it helps me in growing my SEO reach, and it's another marketing tool and everybody's doing it these days and blah, 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 blah. No, that's not good enough reason. It's not good enough reason because it doesn't have personal meaning to me. It's good reasons to do something, sure, arguably. Like, there's nothing that I have said that is incorrect in those statements, but it doesn't get me up. It doesn't get me jazzed. It doesn't make this experience fun. It's not something I want to continue doing if all I'm doing it for is the SEO and not to like connect with other human beings. So I think it's really important that to demonstrate for you in this podcast what it looks like and how intentionality works. So the intention that I am setting for this exercise, not just today, but in every episode forward, in the relationship that I'm cultivating with you, in the relationships that we will experience together, in the conversations I will have with future guests, is that it's always genuine, it's always authentic, and it's always done with meaning and power behind the words that are shared. So that is my promise to you going forward about how I plan on approaching this podcast. I think that, I hope that's a great example for you of what it means to apply intention to something. Obviously that doesn't make it any easier. Like, I'm not suddenly like, whoa, okay, cool, now I feel so great. All right, I don't have to like sweat the fact that I am recovering from a cold and sound really nasally and that my face is all kinds of different shades of red right now. That's going to be all over the internet. Those things still all exist. Like, showing up as our authentic selves it's hard in the level of vulnerability that it requires, but also, like, personally, I think it is so much harder to show up and try and be somebody that isn't you. It's exhausting. Like, it's exhausting to constantly posture. So not a worthwhile exercise, in my opinion. Like, being able to just be you and be seen for who you are and feel like you belong is a fundamental need of all human beings. It's how we're all wired, and like, you can't belong and you can't find your people and you can't be true to who you are if you aren't willing to vulnerably show up for yourself. So let's talk about how this applies. Like, how does intentionality come to be? How do we select our intention? How does that fit into the work of Slow Living Solutions? all like kind of big questions. I have okay, so I'm gonna go on this little tangent for you. Uh, I'm preparing something that I'm really excited about for all of you. It's a little added bonus coming your way here pretty soon. And in preparation for it, was listening to one of my favorite mentors. Her name is Hattie, and she has a podcast, although she does many things, and is one of my coaches. But she talks about, in her podcast and in this particular podcast, how intentionality is brought about through acts of discipline, and discipline being radical responsibility, self-respect, self-acceptance, that she of course can say it so much better than I can because she's practiced it for so much longer than I have. But what really resonated for me with her work, and why I enjoy her and I look forward to sharing her with you, is that she really takes the stance that in order to be intentional, we need to know ourselves better. Like, the why behind what we do has to be fundamentally rooted in who we are as people and how we want to show up in the world as the people that we are. So, to bring it back to discipline, for example, discipline is all about walking the walk and talking the talk. So if you say you're going to do something, that you do it. That if you consider yourself to be, let's just say generically, like, if you consider yourself to be a good person, you need to define what good looks like for you. What does that mean? Because my version of that might be different from somebody else's version of that, and both might be true. But whether or not we're living up to who we are authentically, our expectation of ourselves, living in our self-respect, living in our self-acceptance, is all about making sure that the way that we're showing up is aligned to what our words mean to us. Super powerful, my opinion. So let's contextualize. When I think it's helpful, and part of my practice here of being more authentic with all of you is to share like what that's looked like in my life. So to kind of like tie these two things together, like, Hattie is a fitness coach based out of Australia, that I have followed for years. I work with her team. They're amazing. And fitness for me is a real easy one to start to talk about what discipline and showing up for yourself looks like. So I have been a bodybuilder for a few years now. Let's say 2, 3. I was a powerlifter before that. I was just an avid like gym enthusiast before that. I did yoga at one point, all different seasons. But what really got me into bodybuilding from all of the other things is the level of discipline. It is an extreme sport. It is not meant for everybody. And it doesn't look the same for everyone, and it doesn't look the same year round. So I think that, one of the struggles that I have with social conditioning in general is we don't have a real good baseline for what healthy looks like. We tend to look at extremes. And so looking at what bodybuilders look like, people think of as being quote unquote healthy. It's not to say that it isn't, but it's a certain version of healthy that isn't necessarily how the average human lives their everyday life. To look stage ready requires that you are able to be extremely, extremely disciplined about how you think about your food, how you think about your sleep, how you think about your exercise, how you think about your rest. Deeper minutia would be for, say, for your workout program, that you aren't just focused on being there 6 days a week and doing the same thing every time. You have to be smart in how it is that you apply progressive overload. If you don't know what that means, I can put it into the show notes for you. But in order to apply progressive overload, there are many levers that we can pull. So you can adjust the amount of weight that you're physically lifting. So how heavy are the weights in whatever exercise it's doing? You can change the number of sets. You can change the number of reps. You can change the rest periods in between. You can change the speed at which you are doing the reps. There are so many variables that you can tweak in order to activate the stimulus that's going to break down that muscle and then build that muscle back in order to get results. But if you are not intentional in your approach and you're moving all of those levers all the time, or you don't know which levers you're moving, it's very hard to start to navigate on what's working for you and what's not working for you. So when I like working with a coach, they do my programming for me so that I don't have to, which is fantastic. Some people geek out about that stuff. I am not one of those people. It is not my expertise. It makes it much easier for me to outsource that so that all of my mental energy that I want to spend on this sport is spent on physically doing the thing versus having to think about the thing and then do the thing. That's another like level that I don't want to have to do that kind of exercise in my mind, frankly. It's just not where my energy needs to go. But being able to understand over time how with every program that they sent me, or every block of every program, depending on how you look at it, let's say like 6 weeks or 8 week increments at any given point in time, you're looking for how did you progress through that 6 to 8 weeks, and then which lever did you change in the stimulus when you moved into the next block, so that as your body is adapting and getting used to what it is that you've been doing, you're now creating an extra level or a different level, different kind of stress in order to keep activating the muscle, breaking it down, rebuilding it back, et cetera, et cetera. I'm in the fitness industry from a, like, that's my geeky go-to, like how I practice my discipline every day. In Still Living Solutions, I am not in the fitness industry, and I do not consider myself an expert in a way that I am comfortable to coach people on their fitness goals at the level of fitness that I perform at. With that said, the principles of how do we look at the things that you're doing and apply intention to the way that you are doing them, so that you're not just pulling levers left and right all over the place, and that you're doing it in a consistent way so that we can see progression over time, is ultimately what we're attempting to get to. So when we're thinking about your intentionality as a client, we are thinking about, if you are looking to lead your most fulfilled life, it means we've got to start with what those core values are, how they align to the way that we're moving through the world, the things that we're doing, why we're doing them, and then building in the discipline for the why, so that we are consistently showing up for ourselves to do the thing that helps us to be the greatest version of ourselves. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a layer, it's a nuance, if you will. How did I get into this, I think, is a great next question for us to get into. And maybe it'll help to spark you in thinking about, when have there been moments in your life where you've had to stop and question why you're doing what you're doing? Like, where does it come from? Like, you're just like, why does any of it matter, right? I've had several of those moments in my life, for sure. The one that I probably talk about the most, because I think it's why I'm here today, why I'm doing this today, is sort of twofold. With my dad passing in January of 22, he was sick for, like, real sick for the last, like, 6 months of his life. And I hadn't really been around somebody who was crawling their way towards death before, or knew that death was imminent, and was uncomfortable with that fact. I don't know how I will be. I don't, the goal, in my personal opinion, like, the goal, the intention that I set for myself, let's put it like that. The intention that I set for myself and how I live my life is that if something happens to me tomorrow, that I don't feel like I left anything on the table. I hate regret more than I hate anything else. That is, like, regret is my worst enemy. And I don't know that I took my father as somebody who was regretful, but I feel like my interpretation from the conversations that I had with him was that he felt like he'd left something on the table. Like, there was more to do. There was that he got cut short. And this fear of what would be coming next. And it made me really stop to question, like, okay, what am I doing with my life? What am I doing with my life? If I start to look at the decisions that I made up until that point, like, I had my directorship, I was working for some really well-known big corporate companies. I was making big money. Life was kind of meh, being really honest. I wouldn't say that if you were to ask my family, they would consider me to be a very happy person. But I was doing things, and I was doing the things that I thought I was supposed to be doing. And that were supposed to make me happy, and that if I just kept checking the boxes, if I just tried a little bit harder, if I just whatever, that suddenly, like, I was going to be able to manifest that fulfillment. And so I had to, like, kind of take a step back and be like, okay, is my life fulfilling? Like, I have a really pretty apartment. And, like, a great example that I've talked about a lot over the years is, like, my graduate school graduation present to myself was this beautiful, beautiful dining room table that I still have. I was sitting at it last episode. And I bought it because I was so excited to, like, build community and have people over and host dinner parties and, like, do stuff. And I bought that table in 2019, and I didn't have people sitting around it to actually celebrate with me until 2024, so, like, 5 years. Yeah, I had to move. I had to start this life before I had the community that I wanted. And even that is still work in progress, but I was lonely. I was lonely. I was struggling to feel like I was struggling to feel that level of fulfillment that I thought I was supposed to have. I was like, I have the money, I have the pretty living space, I have access to things, I have all the education I could possibly want, I have titles, I have got all the stuff, and yet here I'm sitting like lonely at my dining room table. And watching my father pass, like also lonely from that experience. Um, but even more so asking myself, like, if I'm not getting what I want, if I'm not feeling fulfilled by the way that I'm living right now, is it gonna get any better? Like what do I have to do to make it better? This can't continue. Like, I was just like, no. I'm done with, I'm done. I'm done with going to a job every day that I feel beat down, that I don't feel appreciated, that that I'm not able to express my true talents, or like my passions aren't seen, that like their values and my values don't align. And that's exhausting. Exhausting. And I didn't like, so if I didn't want to end up like dad, I needed to figure out something else. But I also have to take radical responsibility for the fact that like I didn't get to that unhappy place, not of my own doing. And I think that's really like, that's a really like hang on to that thought for a second, because I got all the things that I wanted up to that point. I had the graduate degree I wanted from the school that I wanted it at. I had it paid off the way that I wanted to. I lived in the city I had always wanted to live in. I had the beautiful apartment that I always wanted. I had the title, I had the job responsibility, I had all the things. Anything that I've gone after, I've gotten. Anything that I have gone after, I have gotten. That holds true for you too. What you're willing to go after, you will get. You just have to continue to work for it. And I say that because I needed to be able to look for that evidence when it came to doing something I had never done before, like starting a business or moving to a small town, or my entire lifestyle has completely upended. I needed that evidence. And I think it's really important to stop and think about for a second, like, where do you look for evidence? What evidence are you looking for in your life? When you are thinking about what fulfills you or what doesn't fulfill you, when you're thinking about your intentions, when you're thinking about setting new intentions, when you think about your own capabilities, where are you looking for evidence? Because if you're looking for evidence for why it is that you can't do something, you'll always find it. There's always reason not to do something. That's actually pretty easy to find. But if you start looking for ways in which you can prove that you can do it, that's where confidence is built. Confidence is, by my definition, a process of rebuilding trust that you lost in yourself somewhere along the way. Confidence is regaining the knowledge of your own efficacy, that somewhere along the lines, something or someone talked you out of believing. So we have to look for evidence that suggests to us, well, if it worked here, if I did A, B, C, and I got the result I wanted, I can repeat that kind of success in a different context. If I set an intention to make something happen for myself, I have to be prepared to one, believe that it's possible, and two, do what it takes to make it happen. So it's not as simple as like words that people like throw around a lot. Manifestation. I do believe in manifesting, but I don't believe that manifesting is a passive act. I believe that manifesting is a type of discipline. That bringing something to life that didn't exist before, to bringing something into your existence that wasn't previously in it, only happens through taking small, consistent acts that align to who you are and what it is that you want. So you have to spend your time prioritizing activities that are going to step you in the direction of getting to the fulfillment that you want to feel. I'm hoping that makes sense for you. I'm hoping there's some juices resonating right there, some percolating happening. How can I say this another way for you? When I think about the foray into the fitness world for me, I almost literally wandered, quite frankly. Wandering is not a far off term from what this was. I wandered into a gym. At the time I was living in Appleton. The gym is still there. It's called Limitless Elite. I'll put it in the show notes. They are amazing. They started off, and I think they still are, primarily a powerlifting gym, but one of the owners is a professional bodybuilder. And, you know, I always, especially during comp season, like tell people, you know, I never saw myself getting on a stage. I much like doing podcasting. I was like, that's not going to happen. Womp, 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 womp. Sometimes we surprise ourselves. And there was this, so I wandered in, and there was this big, it was one of the first times I was working out there. There was one of these, like, those big, like, life-size cutouts of her in the corner of one of the rooms. And I remember standing in front of it and just started bawling. I was like, I wanted to be her in that, like, fancy bikini looking amazing so badly. And I didn't believe it was possible. I didn't see a road to getting there. I didn't think that was ever going to be me. And when I think back on that moment in particular, I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know what I would need to do to get there. I had no concept and no point of reference for what bodybuilding entailed. And I think most of my life up until that point had not involved a lot of discipline, or it was like pockets of discipline. Like I knew how to apply it when something was really important to me, whether it was like working on my art when I had an artist studio, or even like when I was showing in my very early years. Like working on my art was something that was very detail oriented and time consuming, and I had a vision for it. And it you know, you don't make great masterpieces. Yours or masters don't make masterpieces like with the snap of a finger. It takes time, it takes layers, it takes effort, it takes practice. It takes making a lot of shitty work to get there. And so I was able to apply it in those contexts, but I'd never learned how to take those skills and then apply them in a fitness world. And I didn't have the self-belief that I could do it. Not that I didn't believe that I could be disciplined, but I didn't see myself as somebody who could achieve, like, I didn't think that I could be, let's just say it, all right? I'm going to say it, and this is a real vulnerable moment for me. I didn't think I could be that pretty. I didn't think that I could look that fit. I just didn't think that it was in the cards for me. That was it was a moment for me where I had to like look at where I really was from a like self-belief, self-confidence, like how I felt about me I needed a little come to Jesus about that. I needed to really start to think about like, whoa, how do I see myself? Like, I think it wasn't, God, I mean, it wasn't, let's bring it back around again, right? As I do. It wasn't until my dad passed that I had to confront the fact that so much of my motivations for anything that I went after were all about proving my worth. And he was the only person I ever felt the need to prove it to. But it was a very big driving force in my life that I needed, and to some extent still is. To some extent still is. He's not here, but like, I don't believe in disappointing people. I don't think that's a real thing. But in my mind and at that time, I was in a place and still feel from time to time that like my worst fear is disappointing him. And when he wasn't there anymore, I had to have a different motivating factor for what it was that was going to move me forward. I had to set a different intention. My intention to prove myself wasn't a valid intention anymore. It wasn't serving me anymore. And I couldn't manage to apply as I started my fitness journey. I didn't need to prove that because I didn't believe that it was possible. Right? Like, I'm not going to try and prove something that I don't think I can do. I'm only going to try and prove something that I think that other people don't think I can do. There's a big difference there. So my approach to fitness ended up being very different because I would go into the gym and her name's Sarah. Like, if I was lucky enough to be there on a day where Sarah was working out, she was always lifting like the big weights with all the power lifters. She was in a different era at that time. And I would watch her work out. And it gave me a point of reference for what was possible. I was like, well, if she can do it, and she's had years of experience, like years of experience. She didn't just like show up yesterday. Like she owns a gym, for Christ's sake. She's been at it for a minute. If it's possible for her to do it, what's possible for me? So we were talking earlier in this episode about what's our approach to our intentions, right? Like, we're looking for evidence. What's the evidence that you're looking for? She gave me evidence of what was possible for me. And I couldn't do it right away, but I was like, well, okay, like a really great example, just to pick one exercise, right? We all know what benching is. If I could bench the bar, what happens if I come in next week and I put 5 more pounds on? Okay, if I can do 5 pounds and I can't even tell the difference, like what if I put 10 pounds on? What if the following week I put 10 more pounds on? What if the following week I put 10 more pounds on? And then the beauty of, especially beginner gains, but the beauty about working out with that mindset is that being in a gym means that you have physical, tangible, like evidence for seeing the progress that you're making. Being able to lift 45 pounds one week and being able to lift 55 pounds the next week, very tangible evidence that you can do a thing. Confidence is built quickly because you can see the progress that you were making. You can see the physical change to your appearance that happens as you start to gain muscle. You can tell the health benefits and how you feel so much better. All of these things started to impact me, where I was like, oh, here's another example of me looking for evidence. But I'm not operating from a place of scarcity. I'm not operating from a place of unworthiness. Like this time, this is true belief in myself. This isn't the story of me needing to go and like stick it to somebody or prove it to someone, or like, I'm not looking for external validation. I'm just excited for like, where's the ceiling? Is there a ceiling? Can I just keep going? And I think that has been like, that's one of the learnings that I want to be able to impart to my clients if they don't already have it, is like, let's get excited about the actual like possibility, about the learning that happens when we allow ourselves to believe that something is possible. When we're willing to like try, when we put forth the effort, when we create a new intention. That's magic. That's self-efficacy. Like that's so, like, that's what I live for. Like what else is possible? If I can do this, I can do more. If I can do this, I can do more. It's why I continue to own and live in this business, because I'm like, if I've got this far, I didn't picture myself having a podcast, and here I'm on episode 4. Cringing, but episode 4 nonetheless. Like, here I am, I'm doing the thing I didn't think that I was going to do. I'm excited to see how you respond to it. If nothing else, it proves that I can do the thing. It proves it to me. Hopefully it means something to you. But ultimately, like, that, what's possible? What's next? That excitement. That's what Slow Living Solutions is really like. For me, that's like part of the fundamentals of it, is like, when we start living with intention, when we start thinking about, here's what I really want out of life, which is not necessarily a career. It's not necessarily not a career either, but like, we have to choose that. And we have to choose that with a deeper why, because like, as my stories have hopefully told you, like, the accolades only get you so far. The accolades only get you so far. It's got to be deeper than that. It's like, if you're on your fitness journey and you're like, I want to lose 30 pounds. Okay. But like 30 pounds, losing 30 pounds, especially if you want to do it sustainably, is an outcome. We don't just go lose 30 pounds. Like, you don't really consciously get to choose that. Now, let me clarify what I mean by that. You have to take conscious actions of your own accord, very intentionally, to lose that 30 pounds. And whether or not you want to take those actions consistently over time with intention to lose the 30 pounds is up to you. You can want to lose 30 pounds, but if you don't want to do the things that are going to get you to that outcome, you ain't going to go anywhere. And maybe that's okay. Maybe you're okay with that 30 pounds. Maybe it's just your doctor that's not. I don't know. But if you're telling me that you want to lose 30 pounds, you have to take action towards the thing that you want. So just like we talk about, if you want to live a fulfilling life, we have to know what that fulfilling life looks like. We work on that together. And then we are going to break that down into bite-sized, meaningful pieces so that your habits, the ways in which you show up for yourself, the why that you perform those habits, those rituals that honor who you are as a person, mean something. That we don't just want the 30 pounds because we want to take our shirt off at the beach. We don't want to lose 30 pounds because otherwise, like, our doctor tells us our life's at stake. We don't want the job or the career, the dollars and cents, the whatever it is, for the sake of having it. Like, it represents something else to us. So we've got to dive deeper. We've got to get more meaningful. How do we feel like how do we feel fulfilled doesn't come from those things. It comes from the interactions that we have with people. If your job isn't giving to you the community that you are looking for, if your job isn't moving you in the direction of contributing to values, systems, causes that you care about, it's time to start rethinking. That's what Slow Living Solutions is about. We are about getting to the intentionality that sits behind the things that you do so that you can live a fulfilled life by being in alignment with yourself. All right, I feel good about what I've recorded so far. It was a little, as expected, a little all over the place. That happens when you're not a super scripted type of person, but I hope that you can see how the different concepts that we talked about today regarding intentionality, regarding discipline, regarding confidence, that those are all inherently tied together. I hope you've learned a little bit more about me. I plan to use myself as the example go forward, and work with guests who will do the same, as a way of hopefully creating some relatability. Your circumstances are probably not the same as mine. The things that you want, maybe not the same as me. Your extracurriculars may not include extreme sports, and that's totally fine. But hopefully you can see how the ways in which I've learned to show up for myself through the examples that I've given today are the way that I just continue to compound and apply them to all pieces of my life, and especially to how I approach my business and how I want to help my clients to be able to move through the world too. So I ended up doing it in a very, for lack of a better way of putting it, like haphazard kind of way. A massive crisis and death in life has a way of shaking all of us, but I don't want that to have to be the impetus for you to make big life choices for yourself about things that you want to do differently. I want you to be able to not have to live in peril in order to make something happen. The small things that we can do every day can make a really big difference, just by being mindful of why we do what we do. So like, share, comment back at me if any of this resonated with you. If you want to hear more about something, that is also helpful. If you got lost somewhere in the fold of my jibber jabber, like, please ask questions. But I would love to just know how this sits with you, especially because this is such a hard thing for me to do, to just this is not my comfort zone, and so I want to make sure that that I'm fulfilling on my promise and my intention to you to show up and do it well, and to do it according to my principles and how it's going to most benefit you. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.